Welcome to the Aced It podcast, where we turn science into sense. This is the 14th season of Aced It, and we are so incredibly grateful that we are able to deliver rich scientific content to you in a usable and understandable way. Aced It is brought to you via the Justice Community Overdose Innovation Network, or JCOIN. If you're new to Aced It, welcome. We're so glad you're here. And check out the prior seasons to begin or continue your learning journey. A special thank you to every wonderful listener. We promise we will continue working to help you learn and grow via Aced It. Also, a quick plug for a few other JCOIN features. Did you know you can get technical assistance for your organization from the experts at JCOIN? And did you know you can apply for a small research grant to help fund an innovative study idea? Yep, through JCOIN. And did you know you can apply to be a JCOIN Leap Scholar or Investigator, a year-long mentorship that will improve your skills? Also through, you got it, JCOIN. If any or all of these exciting offerings sound interesting, check out our website, JCOIN-CTC.org, and learn about the many JCOIN courses, products, and opportunities beyond Aced It, all designed to translate science into sense for you. With that, I am honored that you're with us. I'm Danielle Rudes, your host, and this is Aced It. Welcome to episode 4 of season 14 of the Aced It podcast, about the stories we tell about drugs and overdose. This season, we're exploring the narratives told about drugs and overdose, who gets to tell them, and the narratives they choose to spread. Ultimately, these narratives shape stigma, guide policy responses, and affect access to treatment. Today, we're going to talk about pop culture framing. In this episode, we'll examine how movies, television, music, social media, and visual imagery shape public perceptions of drug use and overdose, often in ways that oversimplify or distort reality. We'll also consider how these portrayals influence stigma, public opinion, and the kinds of policies and responses society views as appropriate. Let's get right into it. When most people think about where their understandings of drugs come from, they might say school, personal experience, or maybe the news. But in reality, much of what we know about drugs and overdose comes from pop culture, including movies, television, music, social media, and the images we see every day. According to research by Bosworth and colleagues and Dingman and Zabalesi Crawford 2021, these portrayals shape public attitudes, often reinforcing stereotypes that people who use drugs are dangerous, unstable, or morally flawed. According to CAPE 2009, film and television are especially powerful because they present dramatic, emotionally charged stories. Drugs are frequently depicted as chaotic, violent, or tragic, and these depictions are compelling for audiences, but not really representative of the full range of real experiences. Because substance use often occurs out of public view, media portrayals become one of the primary ways audiences imagine what drugs, addiction, and overdose even look like. This can create a narrow script for how drugs are expected to unfold, leaving little room for quieter or more ordinary experiences of substance use and recovery. Music also tells stories about drugs. According to Hanba and Hanba 2018, over the past several decades, references to substances, particularly alcohol, marijuana, and prescription medications, have become increasingly common in popular songs. These portrayals can normalize drug use, especially among younger audiences, and sometimes blur the line between recreational use and serious risk. Because music is often consumed repeatedly and in social settings, these messages can become deeply embedded in cultural norms and identity formation. Social media has expanded this influence even further. Online platforms allow drug-related content to spread rapidly, including both harm reduction information and content that glamorizes or minimizes risk. Young people, in particular, encounter these narratives daily, shaping their perceptions of safety, danger, and what behaviors are considered normal, according to research by Habib and colleagues 2023. Unlike traditional media, social media allows users to produce their own content, blurring the boundary between audience and storyteller. Television portrayals, in particular, can feel intensely personal, can they not? When viewers see characters struggling with addiction or overdose, they often interpret those stories through their own experiences. Discussions of shows like Euphoria, for example, reveal that some viewers see these depictions as realistic and validating, while others worry they glamorize substance use. According to Kaufman and colleagues 2021, the same narrative can simultaneously educate, normalize, and alarm different audiences. These divergent reactions highlight how meaning is not fixed in media texts, but emerges through audience interpretation. A particularly recent example is the Hulu series Dopesick, which tells the story of how Oxycontin entered the market and fueled the opioid epidemic. Have you guys seen this? Rather than portraying drugs and addiction as a personal weakness, the series emphasizes the role of pharmaceutical companies, aggressive marketing, and regulatory failures in creating widespread dependence. According to Alandresco, 2024, narratives about prescription opioids often differ from those about illicit drugs, framing users as patients rather than criminals. By following characteristics from different backgrounds, including doctors, patients, investigators, and families, Dopesick humanizes the crisis and highlights how ordinary people can become dependent through legitimate medical treatment. Based on research by Peak Busian and colleagues, 2024, such portrayals can increase public empathy and show support for health-based responses to drugs and overdose. Digital spaces can further amplify these narratives through peer interaction. Online discussion about substance use allows individuals to share experiences, seek advice, and influence others' perceptions of risk and acceptability, particularly among young people, according to a study by Oldfield and colleagues, 2021. In this way, social media functions not only as a communication channel, but a community that shapes collective understanding of drug use. Now, we cannot forget about the importance of visual imagery here. Media and anti-drug campaigns often rely on recognizable stereotypes, such as the junkie, depicting users as physically deteriorated, immoral, and dangerous. According to Sheeb, 2017, these one-dimensional portrayals ignore the diversity of people who use drugs and can foster fear, disgust, and social distancing, reinforcing stigma and undermining harm reduction efforts. Such imagery can make it easier to justify exclusionary or punitive policies by portraying people who use drugs as fundamentally different from the general population. And that just isn't the case. At the same time, pop culture does not stigmatize all drugs equally. Some substances, particularly prescription medications, have been framed as legitimate medical treatments, while others remain associated with crime and deviance. According to Alexandrescu, 2024, these distinctions reflect broader social and political forces, including race, class, and institutional power, rather than purely pharmacological differences. And let's not forget that these narratives have real consequences. Stigma can discourage individuals from seeking treatment, accessing harm reduction services, or speaking openly about their experiences. Dingman and Zilbalsi Crawford, 2021, point out it can even influence how families, communities, and institutions respond to substance use disorders. Stigma does more than shape attitudes. It shapes behavior and survival. Peak Busian and colleagues 2024 and Dingman, Zilbalsi, and Crawford 2021 note that people who fear judgment, discrimination, or legal consequences may avoid seeking treatment, harm reduction services, or even emergency help during an overdose, increasing the likelihood of preventable deaths. Stigma can also push drugs or drug use into hidden spaces, where individuals are more likely to use alone and less likely to be rescued if something goes wrong. In this way, stigma becomes not just a social problem, but a direct driver of overdose risk. Taken together, what we've talked about today shows that pop culture does not simply reflect reality, it helps create it. The stories we see and hear shape who we fear, who we sympathize with, and who we believe deserves help. Recognizing this influence is a crucial step toward challenging harmful narratives and promoting more accurate and humane understandings of drugs and overdose. Thank you so much for listening to the Aced It podcast. We love hearing from you, so if you have comments, topics to suggest, or some science you'd like us to cover in a future season, please write to me, Danielle Rudes at Sam Houston State University. My email is drudes@shsu.edu. And of course, thank you to the Justice Community Overdose Innovation Network, JCOIN's Coordination and Translation Center, funded by the National Institute on Drug Abuse, housed at George Mason University, where this podcast originated. Thank you to our fabulous scriptwriter team and also my fabulous doctoral students at Sam Houston State University, Bryce Kushmerek-McCune, Jalen Magana, and Alexa Mata. And a huge and a heartfelt thank you to the team at Slonky LLC for their wonderful podcast production as always. Tune in again soon for another episode of Aced It.